Hi, just want to remind you that this is a three-part series, and if you haven't done so already, to stop your video and click the link below to take our pre-test. This is important because we really want to understand if we've improved your understanding of hiking and health, if we've increased your knowledge about food and nutrition, but also about these other topics that we're going to cover in this series as well. So we want to track that knowledge and behavior change, and that's really important to our overall extension program. So go ahead and take the quiz before starting the series, and then after the series is over, we're also going to ask you to take another assessment as well.
Hey everybody, so it's 11:30. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our first episode of Hiking and Health. I'm Amanda Woods. I'm the Healthy Finances Program Specialist with LSU Extension, Family and Consumer Sciences, and this is...
Hi, I'm Dan Remley. I'm the Field Specialist in Food, Nutrition, and Wellness for Ohio State University Extension.
So before we kind of jump into it, we're going to give you a little bit of background as to why this webinar series is even a thing. So Dan and I both, just in our personal lives, spend a lot of time hiking and backpacking, and we kind of have that in common. And so we did one kind of brief webinar on this last year-ish, and decided to kind of flesh it out, and joined forces with Dave Apsley, who is an ag specialist who will be joining us on a later episode. And we just kind of created this little webinar series for you. Couple of things before we start. This is really great content for beginning hikers, for maybe day hiking prep. If you're an avid backpacker or a well-seasoned long-time hiker, we're really excited that you're here. You might be pretty familiar with some of the stuff we're saying, though, so thanks for joining us, and maybe we'll learn something. That'll be exciting. So we have also, before we jump into our slides, we didn't get a chance to take the pre-survey that we sent out with the watch information, and you want to do that now. That would be great. We fixed some bugs, so for those of you who already did, if you want to go back in, that would be fine too. All right, so we'll jump into our slides and get started.
Mosquitoes are bad out here.
The view is good from here. All right. So, again, this is Dan's episode. He's going to be talking about nutrition, food, and water safety for the trail. So what to pack, how to pack it, that sort of stuff. So overall in this series, it's broken down into 3 episodes. The first episode is now, and that's nutrition, food, and water safety for the trail. The next episode is going to be on October 15th, and at that point we're going to be discussing planning for the trail, what equipment to bring, what gear you should invest in, excuse me, those sorts of things. And the last episode will be on October 22nd, and Dave Apsley will be joining us then to discuss tick prevention, poison ivy prevention, spotting those plants and bugs on the trail. Really good episode. So definitely join us for those 2 as well. So the outline for today's episode,
we really would like you to become aware of the health benefits of hiking, what hiking and really just time spent outdoors can do for you. Dan's going to spend a bunch of time discussing nutrition, proper nutrition and hydration while hiking, as well as keeping in mind the food safety guidelines when you're on the trail, because that is important for sure. So before we kind of jump into it, we wanted to give you guys an opportunity to engage in the chat. So if you want to take a couple of seconds and maybe type and share with us some of your favorite places to hike, share with everybody else, maybe participating your favorite places to hike. Dan, while we're waiting, do you want to maybe share your favorite place to hike?
Well, I would say the Red River Gorge in Kentucky is one of my favorites, I think.
Nice.
It's a beautiful area, and so much to do around there, and it's not too crowded. I mean, I love Hocking Hills, but it can get a little crowded at times. And if I have my dog, she pulls and pushes and wants to sniff everybody. So
Hiking Hills is really fun, but it definitely feels more like an amusement park type situation on the weekend here for sure. I would say my favorite place to hike is in the Blue Ridge Mountains in western North Carolina. Really, any trail you find there is going to be gorgeous and fun to hike. We have some answers here. High Banks Metro Park and Hocking Hills are both great. High Banks is kind of amazing because it's in the city, basically, but when you're out there, you would never know. Yeah, it's a great little Metro Park trail. Cleveland Metro Parks and Cuyahoga Valley National Park. I've never hiked in that national park, but I love that area, so it's a good suggestion. Heather Remley says wherever you take her hiking is her favorite place to hike.
Or she wants to go hiking.
Yeah. And any national park. Ooh. Elena's going to be going to Big Bend and Carlsbad in a few weeks, so that's awesome. We look forward to hearing about that. If you make it to the next episode or the next one, we'll ask you about that for sure. All right, so we can jump back into our slides. Thanks for sharing. All right, so before we get into the food, safety, and the nutrition part of the day, we wanted to share just a couple of the benefits of hiking, both physical and mental health benefits. So we know that physical activity is good for us. It's good for our physical health, our mental health, but studies have shown that, like, specifically being in nature and walking in nature have had really positive effects on both our physical and mental health. A study has shown that it reduces stress hormones, so it just helps us relax and really just benefits our mental health in that way. Research has also found that walking in nature can improve your cognitive function and even lower your blood pressure. So really just, and that research kind of speaks to anywhere that's outside in nature. So Metro Park, if there's a park by your house or a park by your work, just really any time spent outdoors is going to be hugely beneficial to you. And I was telling Dan before I got here, I was listening to NPR, and they have this little segment called, I think it's Pulse of the Planet, and they were talking about how the spending time in nature, they were in Metro Park, I think in this little clip that they were saying, it not only relaxes you, but it also encourages you to become more aware. So it's like you're relaxed and positive effects, but then also it allows you to focus and become more aware of what's going on around you. So we want that when we're hiking. So this next slide is focused on mental health as well. Spending time in nature can positively affect your mental health, which we talked about. And so in one study, a group of people who went for a walk in the woods were more relaxed, attentive, as I just said, and felt happier. So really, if this is something that you're thinking about doing and you're wanting to maybe spend more time outdoors, be it on a trail or just outside walking, there are a lot of really positive effects that can be felt. And the next one that you can see says that time in nature reduced rumination, which is just repetitive negative thoughts. So really, I think the big takeaway here is like positive effects on your physical health. Obviously, moving around is going to help your cardiovascular health, but it's also a great idea to get moving and stay active outdoors to really have that positive effect on your mental health as well.
So I'm going to jump into nutrition here and have another question for you to answer in your chat box here. So for those of you who said you've been on hikes before, longer hikes, what types of things do you like to bring along? What do you like to have for meals or snacks during the hike? So just go ahead and type in your chat box. Let's hear from you all. And don't be shy. Let's see, granola bars, okay, good. Apples, peanuts, water, lots of carbs and protein. Apples, trail mix, lots of water. Nuts and bananas, good healthy snacks there.
Easily packable too.
Nut mixes, protein bars, dried fruit, good. Again, lots of carbs and protein sources there. I'm not gonna lie, and sometimes cheese. It's okay.
Oh yeah, I know, I'm with you there for sure.
Yep.
I think it's all about balance, and I mean, the longer you're out there, I think I take more flexibility with what I'm bringing. The longer I spend on a trail, you will definitely find like M&Ms in my bag and stuff like that. So.
Beef jerky.
Yeah, that's good.
One of my favorites. Good protein source there. Okay. Got a lot of gummy bears. Very good, and dark chocolate.
Oh yeah. It's that quick energy.
Pizza, just kidding. Okay, we will talk about pizza.
We will.
There isn't any such thing as a bad food, but I think timing is important. So when it comes to nutrition. Well, very good. If we can switch over to the slides. So when we're out hiking, we certainly want to think about having enough energy, and also we want to stay hydrated, and we also don't want to get sick too, right?
Right.
Who wants to be sick on a hike? So we have a short video we're gonna show you, and this is Amanda and I are gonna. This is our acting debut here.
Hollywood,
so,
here we come.
Yep. I'm not holding out for any Academy Awards on this, but here's a little skit that we did on nutrition and hydration. Nutrition and food safety. You guys ready to hit the trail?
I am.
I'm
real
so.
excited.
I feel prepared.
Hey, what'd you guys bring for food?
So I actually brought stuff to make tacos on
Oh,
the trail.
cool.
So I brought
Ooh,
some
that
frozen
sounds
hamburger meat.
delicious.
I bought cut tomatoes and a bag of rice. And tortillas. So I'm gonna make some tacos for us on the trail.
Let's see.
Yeah. It felt like an easy thing to bring. So I've got my frozen hamburger meat here. And then here I've got our tortillas. I cooked some rice and then I cut some tomatoes. So I just threw them all here in my bag
Oh gosh.
for
Well,
the trail.
I just hope you don't get sick. I don't know if you.
Oh, no.
I mean, I've taken a lot of classes in food safety, so I just want you to know that a few things, like the frozen hamburger meat.
Yeah.
Even though it's frozen and it's like 75 degrees out, you can still get sick from that if it's out too long. So,
Even if you cook it?
well, even if it's cooked, because the bacteria, I mean, they thrive in the warm conditions. And so even if it's frozen, if it's cooked, it can still grow on that hamburger. And so if you're going to be out more than 2 hours, you really want to have some refrigeration. The same goes for that cooked rice.
Yeah.
So the dry rice is okay,
Oh, okay.
but because you cooked it, you add a little moisture to that. The
Yeah.
bacteria really like that moisture.
Oh no.
Another thing is that so if you're out and it's like 70, any temperature between 40 and 100, 40 to 140, that's when bacteria can divide and grow very quickly on your food. It can make you sick. So you really want to, even the cut tomatoes, a whole tomato is okay, but when you cut those tomatoes, or if you cut melon, bacteria can grow on those cut fruits and vegetables.
Can you see it? Is that a way you would know?
No, you can't see it. So
Okay.
bacteria is invisible, but can still make you really sick. So
Oh, geez.
what I like to use is a insulated pack like this,
Oh.
and then you can just have like a little ice pack like that. And so if you're gonna bring some foods like anything with protein, any meats, any types of foods that have some sort of water content, like cooked starches, those are potentially could make you sick, or cut up fruits and vegetables. So
Great. So can I use your pack to keep our
you
taco
sure,
stuff?
you sure
cool?
can.
Perfect.
You sure can.
What about you, Amy? What did you bring for lunch today?
So I didn't need to refrigerate it, and so
Oh.
I was thinking more shelf stable just to be safe. So I've got some Pringles and some Skittles, right? Because sugar, energy, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Speaking of sugar, energy, I've also got my soda, so that way as we get further down the line,
You
I
can be
know
hydrated.
I can be hydrated and I can give myself a little sugar boost to keep that energy going. Is that better? Since
Well, they're okay to have. My only concern is that with these types of foods, it's quick energy, but then you crash. And so you want to have more sustained energy.
okay.
So I would recommend things like nuts and carbohydrates. So I've got a peanut butter sandwich here, so that has the protein and the carbohydrates. It's whole
gotcha.
grain, so that's a good thing. But then I've got lots of bars, like fruit bars. Those sports bars are good to have. So you want to think about balance. And
Okay.
so I think about the food groups, fruits and vegetables, and grains, and protein, like even jerky is good. And so that will help you have that sustained energy throughout the hike. And the candy's okay, but just, not, you need to add a little bit more
Have
balance.
some of that with this.
Exactly.
Are you willing to share with me later?
Oh, sure thing.
Okay, great.
Another thing too with fruit, it's got juice in it too, so that will even help
Okay, so a
hydrate
little bit
you.
of hydration.
Yeah,
Better
and
hydration than a soda, probably.
Yep. And things like bananas and avocados, they have potassium, so that's really good for your
that
muscles
sounds
as well.
good.
So you want to have that right mix of nutrients to keep you have that sustained energy, but also to just keep you healthy as well. on
That
the
makes
trail.
sense. Okay.
So,
I didn't even think about what healthy snack options I could bring with me. You think shelf stable and you go to processed. So that's good to know that
Yep.
there are lots of options.
you know what gorp is? Good old raisins and peanuts.
Oh.
And so you've got your
That's
fruit
good.
there, you've got some protein, and that's
Some
just
carbs.
some carbs, and that's just a really good combination.
That's a great idea.
Keep your energy levels up.
Okay, awesome. That sounds
So
good.
don't throw away the Skittles, but just try to think a little bit more
we
about
can share
balance.
them. We'll
Yes.
spread it around.
Between all of
Balance.
us, we have good food for the day, and then you can keep mine food safe for the rest of our hike.
Yep, sounds good.
Great,
You
all
ready
right.
to
Well,
get
I'll
going?
give this
All
to
right.
you to stick in there,
Oh, sure.
and then let's get started.
All right, sounds good.
I'm ready.
At least we all brought enough different stuff that we can share with
I
each
think so.
other.
Right.
All right.
Ready?
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, that was our little acting debut, but this was all filmed at Lake Catherine, which is also, what you see in the background is also Lake Catherine in Jackson, not too far from OSU South Centers where we're broadcasting here. So we can get to the slides here. Okay, so let's talk about nutrition and backpacking. So when we think about nutrition, we really want to make sure that we have quick energy, but it's also sustained so we don't crash. And somebody mentioned pizza. Pizza's okay, but not right before a hike. Fatty foods, maybe 3 to 4 hours before a hike, but not right before. And that's because when you eat fatty foods, it kind of sits in your stomach. And it's not fatty foods are not digested really quickly and absorbed, so it just sits in your stomach. And actually what happens is it draws blood away from your muscle tissues, because it does take energy and it takes a blood supply to actually digest those types of foods. So we want to avoid right before a hike really high fatty foods, and we don't want to eat huge meals right before a hike as well for the same reasons. So I think that the main thing to think about is balance, and especially trying to think about carb and protein sources. Carbohydrate foods give us that quick energy that we need, that our muscles need to keep moving. It's kind of like the gasoline that our bodies need. So we need carbs, and we also need protein, because protein sources actually can be converted to energy, but they're converted much more slowly. Plus, they help repair muscle tissue. A lot of protein sources also have like B vitamins and minerals too that help convert those carbohydrates to energy sources for us. So having meals and snacks that are high in carbs and proteins are ideal for hiking. And we want to try to eat small snacks throughout the hike. So maybe 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates every hour or so, and mixing those in with protein, but not huge meals. And what I kind of like to think of our metabolism as almost like a fire. And so if we have like actually our fire gets a little bit more, more small as we get older, but so we want to keep throwing sticks into the fire to keep it going, but not a big log, because a big log it might smother the fire. So we want to have small snacks throughout our hike, and we want to think about carb and protein sources kind of put together. So carbs include bread, rices, pastas, even candies, dried fruit, and cereals. Those are carbs that are converted to energy pretty quickly, and then those protein sources that can provide that sustained energy. Now, there are differences in carbohydrates. Some carbohydrates are digested more slowly than others. For example, white bread might be digested more quickly, or hard candies might be more quickly digested than pastas. But that's why it's important to kind of mix up those candies and quick-acting carbs with the more complex carbs like breads and pastas and that type of thing. as I said, trail mix, good old raisins and peanuts, as I said in the video. That's an excellent snack. It has that mix of protein and carbohydrates. Nuts in general, like cashews and peanuts, are good protein sources, but they're also high in those B vitamins and some of those minerals like manganese that helps us metabolize those carbohydrates. And also, and nutrition, we need to keep in mind, like if we're going for long hikes, that recovery snack and meal is really important. Because what happens when you go on long hikes and you're working your muscles, you have these these glucose supplies in your muscles that's called glycogen. And so when you burn through that, you want to replenish that. So again, having those carb, protein, post-hike snacks and meals are really, really important. It also helps, the protein sources help repair the muscle tissue as well. Okay. So food safety is really important as well. So if we're out on long hikes for say more than 2 hours, there are certain foods that we want to keep cool. And as you saw in the video, having an ice pack and some sort of insulation is really important. You want to keep these foods at about 40 degrees or below. Because what can happen is bacteria can grow on them between the temperature range of 40 to 140. So these include any types of foods that you would normally keep in your refrigerator. I realize that a lot of this is common sense. So any fresh, frozen, or cooked meats, poultry, or seafood. So just because something is cooked doesn't mean that it needs to be refrigerated. And that does include in frozen. So you don't want to have don't think you can just put a frozen hamburger in your backpack without keeping it refrigerated if you're going to be on a long hike. Any type of cooked rice or pasta, dry rice is fine, but cooked rice or pasta does need to be kept cool. Cut fruit and tomatoes, so whole fruit, whole vegetables are fine, but once you cut those fruits and vegetables up, they do need to be refrigerated. Any type of egg products, any types of dairy. The exception might be cheese, because cheese is real high in fat, so cheese can be left out a little longer. Any leftovers that you might normally reheat really need to be kept cool. So the foods that don't need to be kept cool, any dry types of foods, dry fruits, nuts, vegetables, meat, dry pasta, breads, most hard cheeses, butter, margarine, peanut butter, whole fruits and vegetables, and then some types of meats. We mentioned jerky, but also some types of bacon that are already pre-cooked and processed. They're okay to not be kept cool at room temperature. Some other food safety tips. Well, obviously, when you're hiking, you don't always have running water, so you may just want to bring a sanitizer. But use it before you prep food, after going to the bathroom, after handling any type of raw meat, so that you don't get the raw meat on other ready-to-eat foods. And then you want to keep raw meat separate from ready-to-eat foods, especially like in your pack, so that you're not going to get any of those raw meat juices on your ready-to-eat foods, and that can make you sick. If you do cook on the trail, and I think this pertains mostly this is probably most relevant for people that are going overnight, you want to make sure you cook your meats at the proper temperature, 155 for like hamburgers and 165 for poultry. So those are some quick food safety tips. And now we're going to get into hydration. So if we can play the video on hydration. Ooh, how you doing on water?
Yeah, I'm out actually, and I keep sweating. I see this creek down here. I think I'm gonna run down and fill my cup up and just get a little water here.
Well, I'd be careful. Doesn't look real clean. And even if it did look clean, you still probably should use a filtration unit.
Okay.
So, even if you see a waterfall with clear water, I would definitely use, if you're out of water, I bring a water filtration unit.
Okay.
And you can get these about $100 most places. But they're really nice to have, because if you do run out of water, it's like a water pump. And looks like this.
Okay.
And you have a filter. And you stick it in the water, and you pump the water out like this, and it's just really easy to use. It'll clean that water out.
Maybe I can fill my empty bottle with that.
You can fill your empty bottle.
Okay.
But just for future reference, if you're going to be out for an hour, you probably should have a couple cups of water in cooler weather. But if it gets hotter, you might need about 4 cups.
Okay.
So 2 to 4 cups of water for every hour you're out.
Sure.
If you're using the metric system, it's a liter every 2 hours or so.
Okay.
But it kind of depends on how long you'll be out. But you just want to take precautions. Make sure you drink enough water. And if you're thirsty, you get thirsty on the trail, you're not drinking enough.
Okay.
So you shouldn't wait till you're thirsty. You should be constantly drinking water. Make sure your urine runs clear. You don't want it to get too yellow and concentrated. That means you're dehydrated.
Okay.
So another good rule of thumb, take a drink, sip every 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
So just some good water rules. And hey, water's the healthiest thing, but you can get Gatorade, which will have some carbohydrates in it. You don't have to have it, but some people like to put a little flavoring in their water.
Sure.
But just make sure you keep up with those fluids.
Great. Good suggestion. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome. Okay, so water is extremely important because we don't want to dehydrate. And even in cold weather too, it actually keeps us warm. So it can help regulate our temperature. And as I said in the video, our little acting skit there, it's important that we don't want to wait till we're thirsty. We want to keep drinking throughout the hike. And especially if you should be drinking enough water, you should be urinating, and your urine should not be a dark color. If it is, that means that you're not drinking enough. And so everybody's going to be a little different. Some people are camels, and some people aren't camels. So some people can kind of go longer periods of time without drinking as much. Some people need a lot more water. They might sweat more. It's hard to kind of pin down a recommendation on hydration, but I've seen a few pretty reliable sources. I think the American Dietetics Association, I saw a source there that recommend 2 cups of fluids for every hour of hiking. So that's just a good rule of thumb. Now, if it's hot, say it's like 90 degrees, 100 degrees, probably should be up more towards 4 cups of fluids for every hour you're out hiking. So 2 to 4 cups generally. Hotter weather, you're more towards 4 cups. But everybody's different, so you just kind of have to know your own body. The important thing is that you don't want to run out of water. So it's better to bring more water rather than less. And so that's kind of some general guidelines, but kind of be thinking about how long you're going to be out. And if you are on a prolonged hike, that you don't want to drink from a stream, even if it's clear water, because there's a lot of microorganisms. There's parasites. There's one parasite called Giardia, which is kind of also known as backpacker's scourge, and that's a parasite that can get into your gastrointestinal system and make you really, really sick. So just because a stream looks clear, it's running clear, that you do not want to drink the water unless you have some sort of filtration unit or some way to treat it. There's chemical ways that you can treat the water, so it's safe. You can boil it, but you don't want to drink from a stream. You don't want to be sick. So make sure you bring enough water and plan ahead so that you can stay hydrated. Okay. So we have a quiz, and we're kind of wrapping up, getting towards the end of our presentation. So let's see what you've learned. And we're going to bring up a poll. Okay, so the first question is, which of these foods needs to be kept cool during a hike? So take a few minutes and answer question number 1. Okay, can we show the results on question number 1? So 7 of you need to start answering the quiz question. So that's fine. Go ahead and answer all the questions. We'll just go over them all. Oh, I see. You have to answer all three and then submit. Okay. Okay, we have a few more seconds here. So put down your sandwich and answer these quiz questions. Do you see the timer? Oh, they see it. Okay, so let's go over the answers here. So which of these foods needs to be kept cool during a hike? Definitely frozen chicken stir fry. So that's something that has chicken in it and also probably would have cooked rice. So we definitely would want to make sure that's kept cool. Cooked rice, very good. Most of you got that right. Dry rice is okay. So, but if you cook the rice, it's not okay. Now, cut melon, almost all of you got that. Great, yes. A full melon, I don't know why you didn't bring a full melon on a hike, but a cut melon, you definitely would want to be kept cool. Okay, what's the best choice for after a hike? And if you remember, we said having carbohydrates and protein together. Mm-hmm. So peanuts and raisin trail mix, most of you got that. Okay, Skittles and potato chips, again, we're looking at just carbs there. There's not a whole lot of, I don't think there's any protein in Skittles, but correct me if I'm wrong. And not very much in the potato chips. So the potato chips do have some fat too. But potato chips do have some electrolytes, so that might be good, after a long hike. The beef jerky and cheese, again, a lot of protein and fat in that, but not much carbohydrate. So the correct answer is the first one, peanuts and raisin trail mix. Okay, how much water should someone bring on a 2-hour hike in 90-degree weather? So we did say that every hour should be about 4 cups. Mm-hmm. So 4 times 2 is 8. Yeah. So those of you said 8 cups. Again, some people need a little bit more than that even, and some people might need less, but that's just kind of a general recommendation. So good. Most of you did pretty good. Some of you not so as good, but I don't know who did. I'm not grading individual scores, so this is just kind of showing you how the group responded. So pat yourself on the back. Some of you should pat yourself on the back. Some of you should need to maybe rewatch this video again.
Watch our excellent acting.
Yeah, well, you can skip over that. Maybe fast forward it. Okay, so let's close the poll. Okay, so we want to know how you might use today's information on your next hike. So again, in your chat box, could you type some information that you might have learned today that you might use on your next hike? Okay, better snack packs. Thinking more about meal before heading out. Good. Formula for planning how much water to bring. Very good. You remind me that I need to pack more water for our hikes next month. Good.
You can also see, and just doing, next week we'll talk about preparation for the trail, but you can also check into the trails that you're hiking to see if there are water stops along the way. Some trails there are. There is running water along the trail. Not super frequently, but that would be something that you would look into as well.
I'll say too, I think any fluids are good. I think water is really ideal, but even Gatorade or even juices are okay. They'll give you a little bit of energy and replenish those electrolytes. I don't think you need those things too, because you get a lot of electrolytes through snacks and food. But you know, they taste good too, and so it's okay if you don't want water, you want to do Gatorade or something like that. Yeah. Okay.
I also will just add, like next week we'll talk about planning ahead, but I think that so if you're going on like a shorter hike, you might not think that bringing food is, you know, necessary. I've definitely taken some hikes and didn't think about bringing food or water, and I think that's probably always a mistake, right? So bringing water always, even bringing a snack, because if you're hiking a trail you're unprepared for, the likelihood that you are going to end up needing food and or water when you're on a longer hike, or, you know, if you happen to get lost, which the best of us have, myself included. So yeah, I think this is good information for that as well.
Yeah, it's really a matter of thinking about, especially for the longer hikes, you know, you don't want to bring too much food, and that kind of weighs you down, but you want to make sure that you have enough, and have enough nutritious food as well. So you kind of have to, I think every time you go out on a longer hike, you get a little bit more experienced, and you kind of learn from mistakes. At least that's in my case.
Yeah, same.
So I think that's pretty much, we have a few more slides here. Are we? And then we'll open it up for some questions that you might have. Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up here, and this was focusing on food, nutrition, and water safety. Next week, Amanda and Amy will go over planning, equipment, and gear. You want to talk a little bit about that
Yeah,
again?
so I have kind of fit a lot of content into next week. So we'll be talking about finding and preparing for the right trail for you. So if you're newer, or maybe if you're not, ways that you can research new trails, important stuff to take with you, how to find and select the proper pack and pack size for the kind of hike you're doing. We talk about clothing, what not to wear. That's definitely a part of our video. Some more great acting about clothes, so that's good. Trekking poles, we kind of run the gamut really with just trail preparedness next week. So a lot of really exciting stuff. And I will say a lot of it is from learned experience. So I have been unprepared on a few occasions, and so yeah, I'm excited for you guys to join us again next week.
And the following week will be tick and poison ivy prevention with Dave Apsley.
Dave Apsley is definitely an expert when it comes to tick prevention. He had a lot of really great insight. Actually, even we were filming those videos, kind of called the size of ticks that we would see, and I for sure found the tiniest little nymph on me when we were out there. So that a great episode, I think, for you guys all to catch, because it's maybe not something we always think about. Even the plant identification, he goes over poison ivy. I think it's important to know what you're hiking around, especially if you're venturing off trail, which some of us tend to do it from time to time. Even if you're moving out of the way for other hikers, just not putting your hand on a tree that you don't know what's on it. So yeah, Dave's episode will have some really good information when it comes to trail safety with plants and bugs.
So before we get off, we want to open up the rest of the time for questions that you might have that relate to hydration or nutrition, or any other questions that you might have that relate to hiking in general. You can just go ahead and type your questions in the chat box there. Anything that we went over that didn't make sense to you, or that we can clarify. No questions?
We did an excellent job of.
Well, you must have some questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, it's fun information. Trying to help you all be better prepared to hit the trail.
And fall is a wonderful time to be outside too, with the leaves changing and the weather is nice. Questions next week. I have time to process this week. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, invite some kids. We'd like to grow our audience for sure. So if you have some friends or coworkers, please share the link. We definitely would like to build our audience.
Oh yeah, and all of this information is really great for any age.
Mm-hmm. Will you cover concerns of ticks living later into the year?
Yeah, so Dave is going to, in the third episode, he's going to really kind of delve into the topic of ticks and plant identification. So we can pass that comment along to him. But yeah, he's extremely knowledgeable when it comes to ticks specifically. I learned a lot just in the time that we were out there filming. So yeah, you'll get some really good information from him then.
Any other questions?
Especially too, I will make sure to kind of steer next week's episode towards children as well. I know a lot of kids want to get out on the trail with their family. There have been a couple of families that have actually completed through hiked the Appalachian Trail with children, young children. So this is definitely an activity that really all ages can enjoy. And you can also strap a pack on your child, and they can Sherpa some gear for you as well. So I will make sure to make some recommendations for all ages.
And I'll be on the Appalachian Trail next week, actually, so I might call in or Zoom in. Or
yeah, we'll see if Dan has the connectivity in the mountains. Maybe not, though.
Well, these mosquitoes are starting to get at me.
That's true. Well, thank you guys.
So I get sunscreen, too.
I know.
I need to get some sunscreen on.
Oh, we're covering that, yeah. Yep. Next week, sunscreen. All right, cool. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, we won't keep you any longer, but we recorded today's webinar. We will record the next two as well, and we'll be sharing them with you probably after they're all three over. Haven't talked about that. But if you're joining us next week, we will see you then. And you all have my email address. If you have any questions, anything pops up, go ahead and send it my way. And I will be sending out another reminder Monday of next week to let you know. We will definitely share the presentation slides. Yeah, I can email that out today. For sure. All right, thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day and week.
See you next week.